Morning. Thank you for this opportunity, and we are back to these physical events with more regularity. Very important first topic which we have been given. Most of us deal with HR in a very generic way, and it looks very easy topic. And a person like me who runs an organization where 60, 70 people work, for me, it's my own personal feeling that I'll learn a lot from such a distinguished panel today. But when something is very generic, it becomes all the more important that what are the new parameters being set. And when you use the word hybrid, I presume that we are talking about 2020 knockout post-pandemic. That the knockout which has started, which has given us such a big blow, and the role of HR was something which was tested with the place being your home and your office premises no longer accessible to you. Interesting analogy, interesting data, interesting experiences would have come our way. And for the kind of speakers we have who represent large organizations, I'm sure that I will try to keep a focus where we get these nuggets, these testimonials out, which can be I would say, which will set a precedent for future, how you prepare yourself, how employer-employee remain the stakeholders which are supposed to be. So with this introduction, I will first invite Nivedita. And Nivedita, what do you think? You are the country director of a very large organization, and tell me, because you must be looking beyond HR, yes, and as organization as a whole, what was your transition in this hybrid? How did you first started dealing with this, and how you made it easy for you?
I think, as you rightly said, I deal with almost 48,000 people. And in 2019, I had 55,000 people. It was a task which initially I didn't know how to deal with. You know, the kind of people we have, and how do I connect with them? The first thing came to our mind is, let's deal with across the country 4 to 5 task force. And we had call centers, we organized cylinders, we got them, financial help. In fact, we did one of the beautiful thing is we created a fund for ourselves. We all contributed, to create a fund where our frontliners can be benefited, financially. I think that small care, okay, helped me to retain them in place. And trust me, not a single person, okay, and the clients are quite good. We didn't have to really go back to them. They didn't also ask us to, reduce people. So the best part is we got number 6 in Great Place to Work this year. You can imagine the kind of work we would have done during COVID. It's not only the care, it is we 3 C's, I always say, the career, the competence, and care. We never compromised in even 1 C. We kept on doing our networking. We kept on doing our programs. We kept on the HR, particularly the role changed. They became the business partners overnight. They knew what to do. They were all, on their toes. If I just talk about today's topic, how HR role changed. So it's amazing to see them. They came to the front. Otherwise, we would not have got this number 6, having a 55,000 people in the country. We didn't cut a single salary because we realized this is what, when all other organizations were thinking of doing that, we were thinking how to get our business back. How do we get our people back? That was one, a lot of people went back to the villages. How do we also look after when they're in their place? It's a lot of
Thank you. The good initial observations, and important thing is that fundamentally the role of HR changed after 2020.
Yes.
For every organization, you run a large organization. Abbas sir, I'll come to you and I'll ask you, you are into Ericsson, you are heading their people. For an organization like yours, which has a multinational guidance, or you get a lot of inputs from across the world, when this happened, and what were the examples the rest of the world actually followed from India. Why I'm asking this? Because you represent a multinational. And when this was collapsing, India was supposed to be the place that the whole world will see a tamasha. That tamasha never happened. So what were the examples companies like you gave to the world?
Okay, so while there are a lot of efforts that actually have gone into, holding up the physical support from a psychological perspective. So, for example, a lot of organizations, including ours, went ahead with employee assistance programs. So that's one part of it. But the most important thing is that when you are dealing with such an infrastructure like Ericsson, where there are virtual reportings, it was always there. So the good part is that organization like ours was already ready to face this kind of a thing where you have people sitting all across. But the most important feature, which I believe that human resources, specifically in these kind of organizations, I'm not only talking about Ericsson, but in these kind of organizations, actually understood that management by numbers actually is a very important aspect of it. And when I say management by numbers, that means, and that's my favorite quote, which I always tell people, even in my organization, that, the most important piece is that while you are dealing face-to-face with people, or even if you are sitting in a virtual world, the end result actually happens with the interaction. Organizations basically people rely basically on a connect once or twice a year. And then they want to settle things, how they are going on, and, even rate their people, or if they develop a connectivity, build up teams out there. In a scenario where your entire work and your process actually has gone for 2 years, outside the purview of a face-to-face connection, there's only one option: management by numbers. That means you have to develop that kind of a competence within the organization where managers or people managers or larger unit heads need to understand that people function also is something where you can see trends, analysis, and all the buzz around data and everything actually boiled down in these 2 years, where people understood that the access of data, trendings, and analytics are not only about the business side of it, but also around the people side of it. So that's the short part of it, which I believe has been a key feature. And I believe that an organization like ours really invested heavily on that. A lot of platforms that we developed and a lot of internal tools that we developed where managers can access that kind of a data about their people. Your business partners are not there. You really have to have the trending for an individual for past 3 years, how exactly his compare ratio actually has gone in, how exactly the person, so because there is no chance of even asking the person or reaching out to any person face to face. So that's the kind of a infrastructure, you have to develop.
Good
That's
initial organization. So I'll tell you a little bit about, before I'll come to Raj sir, to you. I'll tell you a very interesting thing, how a very tiny organization like mine deals with some HR issues, and keep in mind how you will respond to them, because that can be a question for many of the people, and even on the hybrid mode, people are listening to it. So 4 days back, I have a partner with me. She came out of University College London in 2010. Her first job was with me. She stayed with me. And she takes so much of onus that till now we haven't had any discussion about how much will be the annual bonus, what will his salary. I always outdo, and I never think that she even thinks about it. What is her final thing? But I think she's happy. We didn't discuss it. It's 11 years now. She's one of the most sought after lawyer. She is the BW Women Lawyer of the Year, young lawyer. So she invariably ends up working till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So we are doing a large arbitration for Kundli Manesar highway, where we are filing an arbitration claim of 2,500 crores. So her entire team was working. But this is one HR question, that 2 or 3 mid-level people had to work for 4 nights around till 1 o'clock. They collapsed. One of them, she said that this is not done. This is something we have to file. There is a deadline. You have to file this. And if you don't file, the claim will be collapsed. And we are talking about 25. They said we resign. And they resign while this claim is going to go and it has to be filed. So in an organization like TCS, which is a multinational example from what India can give to the world, one of the most respected company, it's not about being the richest company, but most respected company. And I have a privilege of working for them on assignments. Where the buck stops, who starts taking responsibility in your organization? And is it, when we talk about employer-employee relationship, all the onus is only on the employer? अब आपकी सारी किताबों का निचोड़ आएगा.
I think if you look at the overall industry, it's not about an organization. So we have roughly 5 million people who works in Indian IT industry. And the context that I've seen in the last couple of years, two things that has stayed with me: the fragility of life that you touched upon. And when we talk about fragility of life, relationships comes into it. So relationship plays a critical role. And when I look at it, during this pandemic, there was no country, no state, no neighborhood where there was not a crisis, and no offices were untouched. So one of the things that stayed with me because of this is the relationship, whether it's in a personal space, workspace, and these two lines I remember, if you allow me. कि काम आएंगे सर्द मौसम में दुशालों की तरह, काम आएंगे सर्द मौसम में दुशालों की तरह, टूटने ना दीजिए संबंध प्यालों की तरह. क्या बात. समुद्र की गहराई इन्हें दरकार है, समुद्र की गहराई इन्हें दरकार है, प्यार वो क्या जो हो लहरों के उछालों की तरह. So one of the critical thing is relationship that came into play. Now, how do you deal with it in the context of polarities? So when we talk about polarities, these are two different opposite spectrum that we need to manage. So on one side, in HR, we are asked to manage layoffs, but at the same time, we need to increase employee touch. We are asked to develop trust, but at the same time, there is a technological surveillance. Correct. Right. We are asked to enhance engagement, but at the same time, it's a work from home situation. So what happened during this period of COVID, the challenge in front of CHROs was how do they engage? How do they build that camaraderie? How do they build that trust and collaboration and leverage technology to do that? So in today's context, when I look at it, a lot of organizations are still working from home. A lot of progressive organizations, many organizations has gone into a hybrid model wherein they're saying you come 3 days a week or 2 days a week and 2 days you choose. But biggest thing for me is, are we able to provide flexibility? So we need to Netflixize our solution across the industry. It's not about Indian IT industry, but across the industry. Time has come in where people have started thinking about relevance of work. Why do they work? That is still has been questioned, and that's where these concepts or some of the news that we hear about great resignations, etc. So people have started taking life more seriously, and work is one part of it. So this is a major change in my view.
Very well said. Very well said. Now, basically, Singh, I'll ask you that employer-employee relationship has so many dimensions. It is being touched upon. If you do a hire, and it happens with me all the time, if I hire somebody because I meet and I hire, sometimes I realize that person is not a good fit in the organization. But how organizations deal with that? Because if you just ask him to go without a proper time, sometimes they don't get another opportunity. So how organizations deal with soulfulness? And do you think organizations also have soulfulness?
That's a very, very deep question, Sudhir. Thank you for raising it. Well, a very good morning to all of you. I represent Hero FinCorp. It's part of Hero Group. At Hero, we call ourselves Hero Parivar. So firstly, it's coincidental you asked me about soulfulness. But when you're talking about Parivar, when you're talking about familial values, there is a lot of onerous commitment, both on the part of the employer and on the part of employee. The role that HR and the management has to play together is to understand this onerous equation, value it, and build commitment around it. I'll touch upon the question that you asked me, Sudhir, but before that, just wanted to, remaining on the topic of hybrid and how world has changed in the last 2 years, I would like to share that for us at Hero, it was very, very important to conserve our culture. That was really the focal point. We did many things, starting with communicating that we will be physically distant but socially connected. We engaged not just with our staff members, but also their families. And when we did this, we did not
happening there. कुछ echo कर रहा है.
And when we did this, we did not only in cohorts, but starting right from the top management. Our chairman conducted town halls with our staff members, their families, with vendors, their families, with our extended staff and families. We had our board members addressed. We had management teams addressed. Culture conservation is very onerous. It was not just about communication. It was about making sure that we are doing celebrations in this hybrid world. We ensured the continuity of celebrations. We ensured the continuity of wellness. How do you ensure there is psychological security? How do you ensure there is financial security? And all of this was happening at the back of various changes that had happened in the regulatory environment. We are a lending organization. I'm representing an NBFC. And just prior to that, there were many crises that the industry had faced anyway. Demonetization was one such change event. IL&FS crisis was another change event. So there was so much uncertainty, and on top of that was COVID. However, we ensured that there was enough security to combat the uncertain times. Against this backdrop, hiring of a staff and making the staff skill for not just discharging the duty, but starting to adopt the behaviors accepted in the organization definitely seems one of the things that one has to do on a continuing basis. Not only were we to train our new hires, we actually, Sudhir, had to reskill our complete staff because sales were not happening. We had to change people's mindset to become relationship managers. Everybody had to be customer facing so that when good times arrive and when regulator eases the norms, we are the first port of call. So yes, you have to give time, you have to invest, and it pays over a period of time.
Very well put. Nivedita ma'am, being a country director, at that time when COVID came and even after, how many times you realized that buck stops at you, and how much personal sacrifice the top management does actually in preserving this employer-employee relationship?
I think that was a key thing what we did. I must tell you, the kind of responsibility we had. I used to have sleepless nights. My family was supportive. Believe me, I used to, those days, go to office. I never stopped going to office because a lot of decisions were pending with us. I could have done it. In fact, nobody was coming to office, just few of us. It was so important for us to strategically think, how do we look after this whole family of ours? You know, financially and physically, mentally, what, you know, the panel members said. The responsibility was with us, and we are a Denmark company actually. The best part thing, you know, we have a headquarters in Copenhagen. My global CEO, he used to be with us because he was very scared about India, and we are a growing organization here. He didn't want to stop the growth because of this. He used to be with us every week once. Nivedita, what is happening? How many people are unwell? How many people you have sent cylinders? I don't think any global CEO would do that. He, you know, last week, in fact, he was here after the entire team was here, the EGM, the top management from Copenhagen. One thing they said, why India business survived, it is because of the 5-6 people on top who dedicatedly worked day and night to look after this 55,000 people. And the best part is, you know, Sudhir, the relationship with the clients. We never stopped, you know, the relationship with our people and the relationship with the client, because they were the one who are feeding this 55,000 people, if I look at it. So the relationship is most important. I think during this COVID, I feel be it HR, be it business, they concentrated on one thing, how to be together, not let go anything from your side and be there. Trust me, I come from a Air Force background. Always I used to think, live for the day. And that's been my motto till today. Because I have gone through Kargil war. I always felt, just enjoy your day and touch one heart a day, your day is made. Trust me, COVID taught many of the people this small thing, that enjoy your life and touch one heart a day. Everything will happen. That whole, touching one heart a day made people to reach so many hearts. I think that was the essence.
Such a amazing thing you said. And important thing is that a lot of people actually talk about that how COVID has redefined themselves.
Yes.
And you were mentioning that. I'll just tell you, as a law firm, we represent large hospitals in Delhi.
Okay.
Our life was very simple. Do some few consumer cases or acquisitions, joint venture. When consumer happened, when this pandemic happened, the second wave, Delhi collapsed. And the beds became such an issue. All of us know,
Absolutely.
I'm sure many of us know what happened for beds, for judges, for doctors, even there were no beds. We got a oxygen bench created in the Delhi High Court, which was
Wow.
hearing the whole oxygen debate. I was appearing there virtually on an alternate day. You know what kind of calls used to come from hospitals? I'm talking about Venkateshwar Hospital, the large hospital, which were large COVID hospital.
Yeah.
At 1 o'clock, you will get calls from hospital. After that, one hospital tragedy happened, that we are left with 4 hours of oxygen. Where is our oxygen, Sudhir? What is the order coming from the court? And the judges were awake the whole night.
Wow.
And they were passing. So our job from lawyering became supporting the hospital for
Yes.
2.5 months, literally. So I think reinventing became a religion for many organizations.
Absolutely.
And whether they are domestic or international. Abbas sir, I'm sure you will have many stories to tell in last 2 years. Share a few of them. What do you think about this?
Obviously, organizations had to dedicate themselves specifically for this. We also had, oxygen concentrators and everything arranged for the people out there. This is a lesson for, I would rather like to say that, this has been a lesson for a lot of us in terms of how exactly the functions actually have to evolve. Let me just so what I believe is that functions actually have learned that they have to evolve and perform in a project mode in these kind of situations. And I see a lot of business units actually talking about this project mode evolution. I see support functions actually evolving like support, and they're talking about, I was talking to one of the gentlemen who happens to head the unit was for the larger market area. And he said that I really would rather like to develop some kind of a, mercenary project team, possibly for the organization in situations, whether it be the business situation, whether it be situations like these. If you talk about stories, obviously there are some, not specifically, I cannot pinpoint, but there have been stories where we have found out a spike. We actually have an employee assistance desk, which basically is a psychological support desk for people. And looking at the data, I'll not talk about individuals right now here because that's not the right thing. But looking at the data, what we saw was that there was a huge spike, and there continued to be a huge spike in terms of calls and issues of such nature. I have seen some people, very senior people, who actually senior in terms of tenure to me in the organization. I never imagined that, approaching the organization for financial help at a certain point in time. I have seen people who had good number of properties developed during whatever I've seen their career. And just because one of the gentlemen I knew that he developed a lot of complications after COVID hospitalization, he had to sell 2 houses in distress. The good part is organizations, at least Ericsson, like Ericsson, who have formulated a corpus, and not exactly right now, but they had actually, I believe, for the past 20 years or so, for situations like this, not imagining COVID altogether. came up to the help of these people. Even, for example, if you go by the insurances that people have, it's not something that can be covered out. I mean, people superseded by 5 times whatever insurance cover they had. So they exhausted the insurance cover, they exhausted a private insurance cover, and then the organization actually had to come. Lot of payroll team, I mean, they had to work specifically around giving, exceptional advance pays to people. So the way, obviously, what we are talking, that people have started to think about, and that's the reason I'd like to end with that. I mean, I was going through one of the surveys of Gartner, and a lot of people actually talk about employee value proposition or employer value proposition, whatever they like to call it. I mean, it's always confusing whether it is employee value proposition. I mean, one of the persons that was talking to me yesterday, I said, I'm also confused, don't ask me. So the Gartner has used a word, and it's very interesting. And they said, because this is a generation of people who want to experience everything. I am from a generation who used to say, when I will grow up, I will have a huge library. When I will grow up, I will have a swimming pool, because that's the asset creating, generation. Then you have an experiential generation right now, which actually would rather like to go to a resort and have that experience, or have a Mercedes for a day. That's the experience. That's why you have B&B, Airbnb, and all these kind of businesses really coming up well. Anyways, so because this is an experiential generation, and we are living the generation which actually believes in touching things, feeling things, and taking out whatever they can from that. I believe the entire COVID situation actually has turned employee value proposition into something where organizations should think about how the employee should have a life experience proposition now.
That's a new thing now.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that name altogether has changed. So
Yes.
It's not an employee. It's a person actually is not coming as an employee now. A person is actually adopting an organization into his or her own life. So that's the
Very well
change.
said. Very well said. Raj, sir, before I come to you, I'll tell you how difficult it becomes because what basically Nivedita ma'am said, that when you are a leader, you have no option. Like she said, I went all through the pandemic, she went to office. Naturally, she is the last person standing. Same happened to me. I was going, because one, you are lawyers, to hospital. I was also going to the hospital, and my mother will freak out. My wife will say that you have a daughter who has a small issue. If it will happen to you, what will we do? So I said, I can't just, even if I want to close my business, my being a lawyer, anything that will happen post this drama. It can't be discussed today. I can't vacate the post. And of course, COVID happened in the first wave, second wave. I battled it out. But the fact is, today I'm sitting there, somehow very well, I would say Abbas said a very, very important part. When all of us have lost countless friends. All of us know the stories where all the insurances expired. It has taught so many lessons on financial management now to us. But the fact is, whosoever is sitting here with so much of experience now. And what all has gone through these 2 years is bigger than Titanic, let me tell you, individually for us in our life. What do you think, Raj? What are your, like, I will say that this Zoom, March 2020, somebody asked me to do. I was not knowing what it is. I was at the airport. I said, ye kya hota hai? Video call, little bit we were doing at that time. And today, I don't want to do an event. I'm doing a show which is online, and I'm so comfortable doing it. It's a complete journey. So personally, you are working in a tech company. What is your own experiences in this? What new things you learned?
I think if you look at this scenario like work from home, when we were even pre-COVID, if you look at its max, social mobility, cloud analytics, alongside Internet of Things, bots. At some point in time, I was also thinking, instead of me, at some point in time in life, the robot would be asked to hire a person rather than an HR person and person. But I think what has happened in the last couple of years, there is a ask that bring human back into human resources. So though you may talk about algorithms, but human insights are going to coexist. So in my view, technology will coexist with human. So we are not going to lose that relevance. Second critical thing that I saw, the business model shifting altogether. So whatever we thought was a difficult thing to do, it became a new normal. And I remember the Stoffler course who says, illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot unlearn, relearn. Now, reskilling your workforce, not only for technology organization, look at the education system. Education industry has leapfrogged. Whatever they would have achieved in the next decade and a half, they have achieved in the last 2 years. When we, before pandemic, did we ever imagine that our kids, in primary school also, or our teachers will get online and do that? It took time to adjust to that, not only for the organization, for the larger society. And organization are spectrum which reflects the society. So whatever happens in the larger society, it will be reflected in the larger organization corporate ecosystem as well. So one of the things, this teaching community that got hooked to online across the spectrum, and this hybrid learning model that we are talking about, at some point in time, it was a luxury. Some of the things that technology itself we thought is a luxury, but now it has been commoditized. You don't have a choice but to be technological friendly or adopt technology to run your businesses. So,
very well. So the final words to Ms. Singh again. And so now lending is back and it's very attractive. The repo rate is dancing and it's all very attractive. So wo kehte hai na ki sukh ke din aaye re bhaiya. So now the relationship managers, they will go to the old ways pre-pandemic, or they will remain sensitive, sincere, and their reinvention will work for Hero.
So for us, the focus has always been to bind all of us as staff, as Hero Force, to the purpose of the organization. And the purpose of the organization is really to empower every Indian's dream of upward mobility. We are a lending organization that really is in nation building. We provide financial assistance right from the common man on the street who wants to start a small enterprise by buying a bike, making sure that he can do deliveries door to door, right up to the promoters of various large corporates who would want to expand their businesses with the help of capital. And we are the partners in this journey. So our focus is to make sure that our staff and all of us as Hero FinCorp understand the power of this stream and can enable this for our customers in the right manner. And in this journey, what is important is really to remain empathetic. We have to provide an ecosystem where our staff members can feel that empathy. Empathy is really about being able to step into other person's shoes and understand what their needs are. You may not be able to experience it, but your understanding will help you deliver products, services, solve problems in a way that truly meet the needs of your customers, of your colleagues, of your co-workers. The other thing, Sudhir, which you said, are we going back to the old ways? Never. We only move ahead. When pandemic taught us that agility will be the new way of working, we adopted agility not just as a mindset. We adopted unlearning, relearning, not just as a mindset. We have also made sure that we are incorporating and manifesting it in our structure. We have actually now taken on a journey where we are practicing agile ways of working as an organization design. Collaboration has embedded in the organization to the extent that we have made cross-functional teams that are delivering projects in the organization on a continuing basis. So I don't think there is a world of old ways. There is a world ahead and we are marching towards it.
So thank you to this excellent panel, and I'm sure all of you must have enjoyed a lot because I try to keep it very simple and very interactive. And I'm really thankful to all of you for coming in the morning and addressing this great audience. Thank you. Thanks a lot.